What I'm about to tell you is the reason my parents moved out of a house that had been in our family for 3 generations. I've struggled with depression most of my life. It's better now, but as a kid, it was horrible. I spent a lot of time alone in my room. Our house sat deep in the woods. Trees on 3 sides. A thick forest separating us from any neighbors. My room was big for a kid's room. 2 windows, both facing the woods. At night it always felt like something out there was staring back at me. I was scared of the dark, so I kept a night light. It had different color settings, but I always kept it on red. That's how I'd fall asleep every night. Then things started to happen. The first time, I woke up in the middle of the night, something I never did. I was too tired to stay awake, but before I fell back asleep, I noticed my night light wasn't red anymore. It was a different color. A week later, same thing. I woke up. Light wasn't red. I asked my parents why they kept changing it. They looked at me like I was crazy, said it was glitchy. I tried to believe them. Then one morning, I woke up to find the night light unplugged, just sitting on the floor. Again, my parents brushed me off, said I was too old for a night light anyway. A few days later, it vanished completely. Now I was sure they'd taken it. We fought about it. They swore they hadn't. I swore I hadn't. Nobody budged. For about a week, things were quiet. Then the real nightmare started. 3 nights in a row, I woke up in the middle of the night. No reason, no noise, just wide awake. On the 4th night, I stayed up. That's when I heard it, rustling, from my closet. I told my parents. They didn't believe me. My dad even checked the closet. Nothing but old toys and posters. But every night, I woke up. And every night, the rustling. I was losing it. On the 5th night, I begged my dad to believe me. He got angry, dragged me to the closet, started throwing my toys around, clearing it out bit by bit, yelling at me the whole time. Then he ripped one of the posters off the wall. We both froze. Behind it, a massive hole. My mom started screaming. My dad grabbed a flashlight. The hole was deep, too deep to see where it ended. He ran outside to check the foundation. At the base of the house was a tiny hole in the dirt. He dug at it with his hands and uncovered a passageway, a tunnel, from the woods, straight into my room. That night my mom and I left the house. We stayed at my aunt's. We moved out for good soon after. I try not to think about it now. My parents refuse to talk about it. I think they feel guilty for not believing me sooner. But what chills me the most is this. For over a month, someone had been in my room. Every night. I have no idea what they wanted. And I'll probably never know. If your kid tells you something that sounds impossible, believe them. I have a dog. I take him for 3 walks a day. Morning, afternoon, and finally, at night. Same route every time. Out the driveway, through the cul-de-sac parking lot in our condominium complex. I'm only telling you this because it matters. The night walks are always late. It's just a habit. It's never been a problem, until that night. I started our last walk of the day. Usual route. Flashlight in hand. No streetlights in the parking lot. Music in one ear. One AirPod out, just in case I needed to hear something. And then, I did. At first it was faint. A voice. Somewhere up ahead. I was zoned out, not paying attention. But then my brain caught up. I stopped walking. Pulled the AirPod out. Listened. Still. Another sound. A voice. But no one was there. I should have turned around. Instead, I walked forward. Carefully. I stopped again near the parked cars. Raised my flashlight. Swept the beam left to right. Nothing. And then, the creepiest thing I've ever heard. A muffled voice. Soft. Childlike. It said, "Help." My heart dropped. I froze. Legs wouldn't move. I whipped the flashlight across the cars. Nothing. No kid. No person. Just me and my dog. Sniffing the bushes like nothing was wrong. Then I heard it again. "Help." 3 more times. Same tone. Same muffled sound. Coming from my left. By the cars. My dog's ears perked up. He looked exactly where I was shining my light. That's when I felt it, the wrongness. The voice didn't sound quite like a child anymore. It was off. A strange mix. Part adult, part child. And every time it said, "Help," the tone was identical. No change. No urgency. Just a blank, muffled statement. Like a recording. That's when my instincts screamed, "Run." And we did. Straight home. I tried explaining it to my mom. She was puzzled. I wanted to call the police. What if it really was a kid? She didn't think it was necessary. But all I could think was, why was the voice muffled? Was someone trapped inside a car? Or was something waiting for me to get closer? I don't like thinking about it. but it still chills me. This is the spot where I stopped, where I pulled my AirPod out, where I heard the voice ahead of me, and then closer, on my left, between the cars. Nothing visible, no movement, just rows of big trucks and SUVs blocking my view, and that voice. I never figured it out, and to this day, I can still hear that flat, muffled help in my head. This happened a few years ago, back when I'd just landed my first big girl job. I was renting a small, one-floor house in a quiet town. 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, just enough space for me, and maybe a guest or 2. The landlord, Michelle, seemed nice, friendly, almost protective. I even got the feeling she rented to me because I was a woman. For the first few weeks, everything was fine, normal. Then, one night, it started. Knock, knock, late at night. I froze. I walked to the door and called out, "Who is it?" Silence. I didn't open the door. No one should be knocking at that hour. The next morning, when I was leaving for work, I opened the front door and stopped. A note, taped to the storm door. It said, "Hello, beautiful." My stomach dropped. I remembered the knocking from the night before. Same person. It had to be. I crumpled the note and threw it away, telling myself it was a one-time thing. It wasn't. That evening, another knock. Earlier this time, while I was cooking dinner, I crept to the door but didn't say a word. Just listened. No peephole, no window, no way to see who was there. The storm door didn't even lock. And now it was clear, this wasn't random. This was a stalker. I called my parents. Even my dad, a retired cop, didn't have much to offer. He told me not to answer, not to go outside at night, and if it kept up, he'd drive down and stay with me. I followed his advice. The next morning, another note. This one said, "I like to watch you." I felt sick. I snapped a picture and sent it to my family, and to Michelle. She sounded shocked, said she'd never had stalkers, said she was in a long-term relationship. I wasn't convinced. That night, I left my own note on the door. "If you're looking for Michelle, she doesn't live here. She only rents this house out. If you keep coming here, I will report you to the police." Writing it down gave me a tiny sense of control. That night, no knocks. I went to bed, thinking maybe I'd scared them off. Morning came. I opened the door. My note was gone, but there was a new one. "I'm not looking for Michelle. I'm looking for you." And then my name. And then, "I like watching you." I sent it to my dad immediately. I felt nauseous. He packed a bag and drove up that day. By the time I got home from work, he was already there. That night, we called the police together. We figured whoever it was might be watching. We wanted them to see the patrol car. A single officer came, took the report. My dad stayed on the front stoop for hours, long after I went to bed. The stalker didn't return. As soon as I could, I moved out. Michelle understood. I never heard from her stalker again. They never followed me to my new place. Which made me think, maybe it wasn't a coworker after all. Maybe I'll never know who it was. But I still think about those notes. And sometimes, late at night, I swear I hear a knock on the door. I've been smoking every day for years. Yeah, I know. I'm seeing a therapist for it, but it hasn't helped much. The only thing worse than my nicotine addiction is my sleep schedule. I stay up past midnight, sleep until noon. My whole life feels off balance. And that's important because it explains why I was awake to see what I saw. It started a few months ago. I was on my balcony, like every night, smoking. My neighborhood is quiet, secluded. The houses aren't close together, but from my balcony, I can see over my neighbor's fence. Not on purpose, just the way the yards are. He drives a navy blue BMW, always alone. Never met him, never heard a sound. But that night, there was a black van parked in his driveway. I told myself it was nothing. Coincidence. But the next night the same van was there. By then, I'd started watching on purpose. It became a game. Watching, waiting, theorizing about the van. I wasn't going to poke around. It wasn't my business. At least, that's what I told myself. Then, one night, everything changed. It was 5 a.m. I was smoking my last cigarette. The van was still there, and my neighbor came outside. He was carrying a long black bag. Heavy. He opened the van's side door and gently slid the bag inside. It looked like a golf bag, but heavier. He got in the driver's seat and sped off. I just stood there, smoke curling in my hand. What the hell did I just see? The next night I decided to watch earlier. I brought my laptop out. Waited. At 1 a.m. The van pulled in. Engine running. Lights off. Sitting there. 5 minutes. Then the door opened. He slid the side door back and pulled the bag out. Struggling this time. Visibly straining under the weight. He waddled to the house. Vanishing inside with the bag. My mind raced. Something was wrong. I could feel it. The next night I made a decision. I'd follow him. At 4 a.m. I saw movement. I grabbed my keys. Ran to my car. Headlights off. I waited. Then tailed the van as it turned onto the main road. 20 minutes later we left the highway. A dirt path. Into the woods. Trees closing in. No lights. We drove for a few more minutes. Then I realized where we were heading. A gas station. Deserted. Hidden in a clearing. His BMW was already there. I turned my car around and parked far back. Waited. Heart pounding. An hour passed. Finally, his BMW pulled out. I drove up the path slowly. Parked. Got out. Walked to the gas station. The front door was locked. Side door locked. Back door locked. But I had to know. I tried the windows. Nothing. Against my better judgment, I picked up a rock and smashed one. Glass shattered. And then, alarm bells. Loud. Shrill. Cutting through the trees. Why would an abandoned gas station have a working alarm system? I sprinted back to my car. Drove home. Called 911 with a vague description. Hung up. The next morning, I went to my balcony. 8 police cars in my neighbor's driveway. Lights flashing. They let him out in handcuffs. One by one the cars drove away. I lit a cigarette. Hands shaking. I've asked the police for details. They won't tell me. I even tried driving back to the gas station. The road's blocked now. Maybe one day. I'll walk through the woods myself. But not yet. Not until I'm ready. Not until I know what was in that bag. We just moved into our dream house. My girlfriend and I. Bella, the cat, curled up on our lap. Everything felt perfect until the house to our right. It looked abandoned. Renovation started, then stopped. No fence between our back gardens, just open access. Behind that empty house lived another property, a cluster of young men. Sometimes they cut across the abandoned yard to get to the street. We didn't think much of it. Not at first. The first night we spent in the garden, relaxed and stargazing. I looked up and froze. A man in the darkness, staring straight at us from an upstairs window. No expression. The room behind him was dark. He just stared, blank, unblinking. After 30 minutes of that hollow stare, we went inside. Days passed. Then one evening, the fence moved. 3 men were standing in our garden, just there, like they lived there. The youngest carried a big bag. He offered us stolen washing tablets. We refused. He smiled and walked off. No, excuse me. No knocking. They'd let themselves in like they owned the place. It escalated. They lifted the board between the gardens and walked through whenever they pleased. We're both 20. 2 young people alone in a new house. We felt watched. Small. Vulnerable. One day, 2 officers walked into the abandoned garden. They lifted the fence, looked around, and left without a word. A few days later, the police knocked on our door. The house was vacant. The men were evicted for antisocial behavior. Relief, for a moment. Then it got worse. While I was in the bath, a loud bang. I ran out, my girlfriend at the spare bedroom window, recording. A man we'd never seen pointed up at our bedroom window. When she made eye contact, he sprinted toward the house. He tried our front door handle as he ran past. Then he broke back into the empty garden, threw the fence up, and began banging on every window of that house. We called the police. They watched the video, took a statement, left. A few nights later, whistling at 2:16 a.m. That slow, leering whistle men used to intimidate. Tapping at our bedroom window. We grabbed the cameras, but the feed showed nothing. Whoever it was left before the motion kicked in. We didn't sleep. The next morning our Ring doorbell lay on the floor. Removed. SD card gone. Someone had come back in the night. Someone who knew exactly what to steal to stop us recording. We called the police. The officer on the phone said it could be a sign they were planning something. She didn't sugarcoat it. Her voice made my throat close. Weeks of whistling, banging, and attempts to get at our doors followed. We filed report after report. The police never seemed to take it far enough. Then, one night, while watching camera clips in bed, we saw him again. A man in a black mask, mouth and nose covered, hood up. He stood on our lawn with his arms outstretched, like some twisted parody of a crucifix. Head tilted, staring up at our bedroom window. We'd moved the camera inside that night. It didn't record him. He spoke low. We couldn't hear the words. Then he turned, strolled to the opposite side of the street, and stood there, just staring, for 30 minutes. We called the police. They said staring isn't illegal. They told us we were overreacting. But who stands on someone's lawn and imitates a crucifix and waits for half an hour unless they want to terrify you? It didn't stop. At 2:52 a.m., motion alerts woke us. 2 masked men, creeping from the side of our house. Flashlights carving white holes through the darkness. One held what looked like a crowbar. They shone lights into our windows. They pointed. They waved. They shouted things up at us. When we looked, that same blank stare, the same slow, deliberate intimidation. Why us? Why our house? We don't know, but it's clearly targeted. Every stare, every knock, every stolen camera, it's all a message: we can get to you. We've bolstered our cameras. We lock every door and window. We sleep with lights on, but we feel trapped, like prisoners in our own home. Every creak makes us jump. Every shadow makes our hearts pound. Today he stood outside again, staring up at our bedroom. We got video. We're terrified. We'll post updates if anything else happens. Because right now, we don't know what will happen next. I've never had sleep problems. No paralysis. No night terrors. I'm a heavy sleeper. Always have been. That's why this was such a shock. Sure, I've had nightmares. I used to call them free 3D horror movies. Sounds weird, but there's a thrill in waking up. I was living with my roommate, Patricia. Trish. We hardly saw each other except on weekends. This was July. Hot. Sticky. I had the window AC blasting every night. The white noise helped me sleep. The first nightmare came a few days after a bad breakup. I only remember pieces, but one image stayed burned in my head. I'm at a dinner table with my family. Everyone's silent. And across the table, a creature, like the aliens from Signs, but worse. Horns. Claws. It looked like something from sleep paralysis, except I was asleep, dreaming. Then it was next to me, leaning over, looking down. I started to run through a hallway until I was in my room, or what my brain thought was my room. That's the last thing I remember before waking up. Pitch black, AC fan on full blast. My heart was pounding. I looked around, laid back down, and went to sleep. The next night, I woke up again. Middle of the night. My bedroom door was open. I almost always close it. My first thought, Trish checking if I was home. I got up, closed the door, went back to sleep. The next morning I texted her. She swore she hadn't been in my room. I shrugged it off. Maybe I'd gone to the bathroom and forgotten. But the night after that, another nightmare. Same creature, same claws. This time, I wasn't at a dinner table. I was in a black, square room. Empty. It kept getting closer. Not walking. Just appearing nearer, step by step. Until it was right on top of me. I couldn't move. It raised a claw, dragged it across my thigh. I felt the pain. In my dream. Then, nothing. Next thing I know, I'm awake. Room dark. AC on full blast. But my thigh, it was stinging. I reached down. Felt my skin. Something was there. I stumbled to the bathroom, flipped on the light. A gash. On my thigh. I screamed. Ran to Trisha's room. Woke her up. She stared at the cut. How the hell did you get that? I don't know. I shouted. We tore my bed apart. Sheets, covers, everything. Looking for bugs, spiders, anything sharp. Nothing. Then Trish froze. She put her finger to her lips. She reached over and shut off the AC. The room went silent. And we both heard it. A faint sound from under my bed. Not a creak. Not a mouse. The sound of a person just existing. We stared at the bed, then at each other, and bolted. We ran out of the apartment. Knocked on the neighbor's door until he answered. We told him someone was in our apartment. He let us use his phone. We called 911. While we waited, we heard our door slam. Whoever it was, they were gone before the cops arrived. We'd left the lights on when we ran. They knew we knew. And then it hit me. The demon in my dreams? It was supposed to be him. He'd been in our apartment. Maybe roaming around at night. Maybe eating our food. And he'd scratched me. Hard enough to leave a mark. It's disturbing. To know you can dream about something that's actually happening. It changed how I look at nightmares forever.